Swamp on Saturday was not a miracle, but it was felt like one, and certainly was one of the great days for Florida football, which badly needed it. And here today, we're going to break down the question: did Sarkisian and Texas underestimate the tenacity of the Swamp? Because I read a lot of stuff from people and fans, they were kind of overwhelmed at how loud it was. I don't guess they understood what it was like in the Swamp. We'll talk to Shane Matthews about that. Also, what happened with the timeout in the end. Billy heavily criticized for calling that timeout. Was he right or was he wrong? Well, Shane Matthews has done some research on that. We'll be joined by Graham Hall shortly. He was really outstanding on the Feinbaum show last week, and he's going to join us and talk about where they go from here. Not worried too much about that. Just enjoy the game. And Shane, as I've been telling you for weeks, just enjoy what you got when you got it. And then, of course, Franz Beard. We'll have lots to say about all of that right here on the Buddy Martin Show. So tell your friends and neighbors, the Buddy Martin Show is on the air.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ? I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Welcome to Meldon Law, Monday, the Buddy Martin Show. I am Buddy Martin, standing by with Shane Matthews in the Orange and Blue Room. And what a day it was. I listened to Shane all day long, and it was really remarkable how badly DJ Lagway was hurt. And I was able to perform many unbelievable things about that game. It was an enjoyable game for Florida fans and one of the greats. I'm going to approach a subject which might be a little too high-minded for some people, but the question is, what is the definition of the Swamp? What happens there? There are strange things happen, like the Bermuda Triangle, and what is that about? And I think it's one thing Texas is going to learn about. Come to Gainesville and you get to play in the Swamp. It ain't easy, Shane Matthews. You never had to play as an opponent, but you've only always been able to play as the host, and it was quite a day for the Florida Gators. Good evening to you, Shane.
What's up, buddy?
Well, it's Monday night. Means you got the game on. I mean, so
I'm watching Peyton and Eli.
Yeah, I know. You sort of have an ability to multitask, do the show and watch Peyton and Eli at the same time. Okay. So let me just start out. I didn't get a chance to hear your show today with the moment and the win. And let's not get into any long-term projections. Let's just take it what it is right now and see what it was and why it happened and how it happened. Shane, top of mind on Saturday.
I thought it was the best game, coaching-wise and playing-wise, that Billy Napier's had in his tenure here. I thought that he called a great game. I mean, he called basically the same stuff that he's always called, but we executed it. The offensive line and defensive lines won the game. I mean, they absolutely dominated Texas. Texas offensive line, buddy's bad. Not just because they got overmatched at times by us, but they just had so many mental errors and busts on their assignments. Texas is not ranked now. I think they're going to lose 2 or 3 more games. I just was not impressed with them. Now, offensively, I thought Arch played pretty well.
Played really well, I think, for a guy.
I think he's a good player. He's getting better. Mm-hmm. He has. I'm telling you, it's one of the worst offensive lines I've seen in college football in a long time. Sark had guys running wide open at times, but we would just hit Arch right as he let it go. But regardless of all that, it was a good win for the Gators. I thought DJ played his best game in a long time. He's hurt. I mean, he's been hurt, but he's hurt now, people. He's hurt. He could barely move. I don't know if it's a hamstring, his calf, or what. So we'll see what happens at A&M.
Well, I heard you on the radio, and I listened to the game, and it's amazing what you have to do in that press box, which is still, I think, the worst in the league. But sitting up in the press box, watching the game live, trying to see it, which is not the greatest view in the world, watching the delayed broadcast on TV and the delayed broadcast on the radio with earbuds in. I'm listening to you, listening to the game, watching the game, trying to get it all right and trying to figure out what's going on in the field. And not able to hear anything on the TV. I've not yet heard the telecast, but it was a remarkable night, and one in which we always should remember that each Saturday is unto itself. And it's like Kenny Rogers says in the song, never count your money while you're sitting at the table. Finish the deal and then get up and count your money and see where you stand. It's not going to solve all the wills. There's two schools of thought, Shane. One is that, boy, where has this been? How come we didn't have that? And the other is, well, what a great coaching job Billy did and the players did. Defensively, he had an amazing number of hurries. I think 35 or some ridiculous amount of hurries. They played well with a lot of guys hurt on defense. In fact, they played lights out defense. And Texas had no answer for them. So, and what can you say about number 6? Oh my goodness, Shane, that was the most amazing display of a first-time player I've ever seen. And the catch and the run he made on the sideline was, I mean, I can't even describe it. It was so amazing. He did that pirouette and stayed in bounds and carried the guy. I mean, it was just amazing. And I'm so excited to watch Dallas finally. We talked about it all summer. We joked about the over-under will be how many catches he gets and so on. And here he is. He's something special, Shane.
Yeah, he's very talented. I was impressed. I mean, look, he did what I thought he would do. He caught a touchdown on a skinny post, which was easy catch. He caught a fade stop on the sidelines. But when the DB fell down and he was running wide open and the other safeties came over to try to tackle him, and he broke tackle, stayed in bounds, and never went to the ground. That shows you how strong he is. Very, very impressive. Buddy, what's crazy, football's a crazy game. Well, all sports is crazy, but it was the first play of the game, we threw a naked bootleg, shallow cross to Dallas. Texas makes a good play on it. Ball pops loose. Thank goodness it kind of bounced right back to Dallas, because could you imagine the first play of the game if we have a turnover right there on about the 22-yard line?
No, that'd be good.
You never know what the outcome might have been.
Yeah. I don't know. There's so many things to be impressed with. I just want to focus on one thing tonight in particular. And I've thought about this a lot. And I woke up at 4 o'clock this morning thinking about it a lot and trying to put it in perspective. And I tried to write something down. But from what I've been able to discern by reading posts from mostly fans in Texas who were impressed with the Swamp in Texas and Florida and the football team and DJ, they didn't know what they were getting into, Shane. They had no idea this was this difficult to win here. And you can hear it, you can see it between the lines and they admitted it. And several of them said it was the loudest stadium I've ever been in. And also one guy said, it's not very big. You could drop it in the middle of Kyle Field. Yeah, that's the whole point. It's not very big, but it's loud and it's on top of you and it's hot and all the things. And I'll tell you, and late in the game there, in the last 5 minutes, the Swamp fans got to Texas so badly that Manning couldn't hear anything. Or they have 5. They had 3 straight penalties for illegal motion. And that played a big role in. He had no chance to come back to that noise. Kept going backwards.
Yeah, I mean, the fans were outstanding. I mean, another sellout. It if you're not on the right page or right frame of mind, most of these teams go on the clap now. I still can't figure out how the clap works, how the hell they can hear it.
Really? How can you hear it? Exactly.
But yeah, it was great atmosphere, and that's what the home field advantage is all about. When your crowd can make a difference in the game, causing false starts.
Yeah, and here you are, not been home since the beginning of the season, playing on the road, never getting your act together without some of your key players, making no excuses. They didn't get it done. This is not Sage Billy's job, but it certainly is brought some respect back to the program now a little bit. And here you are trying to do this, and you just got no chance to this crowd. And this is such a wonderful asset for the Florida Gators, as we know. But what we don't know, what people like Texas doesn't know, they haven't played here before. It's all kind of strange to them, and they didn't know this is what it was about. Oh, you mean it's that loud, huh? So kudos to the Swamp. I wrote that Billy should write 80,000 thank you notes for the fans that showed up there, and what he did, it was just incredible. So new respect for the Swamp.
Maybe he just sent everybody $100 bill in the mail.
Yeah. Well, he got his money's worth. I say that. It was really fun. I was listening to you in the broadcast and trying to watch TV and watch it live. And I know you were railing on late at the end of the first quarter because that was total domination the first quarter. I mean, complete domination. Should have been up 14-0, up 10-0. And then DJ goes into the medical tent and you were kind of freaking out. DJ's hurt. DJ's hurt. DJ's hurt. We couldn't tell because he was still inside the tent. And quite frankly, I was quite surprised to see him come out and then come out and play on one leg. Shane, he's better on one leg than he was on two.
Yeah, you're right there, buddy. I thought he was very good, had his feet underneath him for the most part the entire game. But it was like the second or third drive of the first quarter. We ran a little naked bootleg out of the pistol, and he took about 2 steps, and he let it go. I think, like I said, whatever it is, his calf or his ankle or hamstring, whatever, the leg injury, grabbed on him. You could tell, and he just let the ball go. I think he threw it away. And you could see the rest of the game. I noticed a lot of silly things like that. Most people are watching the ball in football, but my eyes are always on certain things. And good for him because he played his tail off. But I really thought we were going to see Tramel Jones.
I did too. But you know what? He wasn't coming out of that game.
Yeah, and I don't know. Maybe he got shot up in the tent for all we know.
But he wasn't coming out of that game. And you got to love him for that. I mean, he just did not want to give up to that. So, yeah, that was amazing. So some of the things that were said by Sarkisian, who's still trying to figure out what hit him. And then I got a view from a Texas fan I want to read to see what you think of it. He was asked about his team's struggles against Power 4 teams, and he said, how many teams are there in college football? 136. Take the other 135 and have them go play at Ohio State and at the Swamp. See how they do. Well, that's what you signed on for. And I was interested in a lot of the views of the Texas people. And we got to let Shane go here early tonight. We'll be joined in a moment by Graham Hall and Franz Beard. We'll continue this conversation. I want to get more about define the Swamp. If there was an alien coming down from space and you said, I got to tell you what the Swamp's about and how it works, define it. It's really hard to define. I tried to do that this morning at 4 o'clock on my phone, right here. But this Texas fan said, loudest environment I've experienced maybe anywhere as a Texas fan. Hats off to them. Beautiful campus. Cool fans. Solid tailgating. Some legit setups. Really spread out. UF has their own identity based on UF. And then he rips into Gainesville. Not much to do in Gainesville or around it. 2 college town. Stadium is reminiscent of a 1970s bowling alley. I mean, come on, really. and on. So anyway, but they were impressed and they gave the props to him. And, and I know that they were impressed by number 6, that's for sure, and number 2. So it was fun. And Shane, it does make a difference if you don't have the right players on the field. What a difference Dallas Wilson makes. I don't know. I've never seen a debut like that. And trying to describe that play down the side now where he did a 360, turned around, kept on going like a ping pong ball, bouncing off people. And one guy tried to hit him twice, and he carried the guy in the end zone. He was still holding his foot. That's a dude right there, man. He's physical. And I described it as part ballet, part WWE, because he was just incredible. I just love watching the kid play. I've never seen anything quite like that as a freshman. Have you?
Well, the guy that was a freshman at Ohio State last year is pretty damn good, Jeremiah Smith. But Dallas Wilson, I've been saying since the spring game, he reminds me of an Ohio State wide receiver. I mean, they got like 12 of them that start in the National Football League. 2 of them went off yesterday, playing against one another in Seattle and Tampa. But Dallas, if he can stay healthy and get balls thrown his way, could have a hell of a career.
Shane, how he went up on that back shoulder throw. He jumped so high and he's strong. And grabbed that ball and came down with it. And then he goes sort of go to the end zone. So anyway, I don't think it's the fluke. I think we'll see it more. I don't want to downplay, however, the defense. I mean, really. Tyreek Sapp had a 90.4 run defense grade against Texas. First among all edge rushers from week 6. So he had a day, and they were banged up. They had a bunch of guys out on the edge rushing. Describe what you saw on the defense.
Well, I thought the front 4 got after their offensive line. They couldn't block them. We blitzed here and there, but not very often. We didn't need to. And anytime you can do that and pressure the quarterback, I mean, what was 35 pressures or whatever, or disrupted the court arch, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And, every time we'd go to break, I'd put my headset, take it off, and I'd go, I cannot believe how bad this offensive line is for the Texas Longhorns.
That was supposed to be one of their strengths. Remember how that was made a big deal, how they were paying them $50,000 a piece years ago? That was what.
I think they lost a bunch of them to the NFL, buddy, off of last year's team. The last 2 years they've been in the playoffs in the Final Four. So I don't know enough about, how many they lost or whatever, but they're going to have their hands full this week against Oklahoma State.
They are. I think that's one of the teams you like. I believe, but they're certainly playing well right now. That way named SEC Offensive Player of the Week. Just signed his 3rd major NIL deal in recent months. Coming off his best game of the season after the win. And so we're going to brag just a minute. Facebook named us, the Buddy Orange Show, as a top rising creator. Gator Media. And that, Brendan says it's a big deal. So I thought I'd mention that, what the heck. And then Dallas Wilson, SEC Freshman of the Week. Taylor Spirito, there's a name you didn't think you'd call again anytime soon. Also brought in SEC co-special teams player. I could tell you and Kelly couldn't discern who blocked it, whether it was Taylor or Spirito. It was hard to tell.
Replay.
Yeah, it was hard to tell. I know. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So anyway, all right. The line is 7.5 points. Florida underdog, Texas A&M. It's a natural place for a letdown. Certainly now, I don't know what to expect out of this team. We'll see. We'll talk about that 7.5 points. And then I've got something I wrote about the spirit of the swamp, trying to define what it is. It is a force. There's no question it's a force. So we will get into that as well. Shane Matthews, he's you watching the game. What's the score?
14-0 Chiefs, but
14-0.
Jaguars are driving.
All right, we're going to take a break and tell you about our friends at Meldon Law. We had the QR code up here a minute ago. We'll put it back up. Right around the corner, Graham Hall is going to join us. talk about what he saw in the game. It was one to remember. I was thinking about, if the Gators had a prayer, you know how the Lord's Prayer is, give us this day our daily bread. Supposed to think about just the daily bread. They should say, give us this week our weekly bread. Take the bread when you got it, because you certainly missed it. And Shane, you said this quite some time ago. We were talking about it, about the fact that that you got to stop getting all worked up about, firing the coach, not firing the coach, whatever. And you got to start taking the games one at a time and learn how to enjoy the win. And certainly the idea that you ever pull for your team to lose to get a coach fired was one we all rejected. That was not one anybody thought was a good idea. So, anyway, so I want to tell you about our friends over at Meldon Law. They certainly don't root against the Gators. They're some of the biggest Gator fans anywhere around. They also happen to give a terrific battery of lawyers, not the least of which is Jeffrey Meldon. He's been with us for quite some time. He does many great things on campus, sponsors programs, helps the band. He loves it when the Gators win. He's all in it, and I'm sure he was reveling in it on Saturday, and just he was during the basketball season when he followed the Gator basketball team all the way to the national championship. And he wants you to know he's available for law, too. They do practice. Up to 50 attorneys now. They got an office down there in Boca Raton and, of course, Gainesville, Ocala, Lake City, and Wilson, right here and there. Gators, why would you want to do business with anybody else? A great Gator and a terrific person and a guy that you can rely on, and he won't back down. Meldon Law. Check him out. All right, let's go see if we can get our friend Graham Hall on here and get him back on the show again. Graham was outstanding on Feinbaum over the weekend. I saw him on Saturday, and good evening to you, Graham.
What's going on? Hey, buddy. What's up, Shane?
What's up, Graham?
How you doing, man?
I saw you Saturday.
Yes, sir.
And I must say, when you laced them up pretty good, when you went on with Feinbaum and you buckle under, you told it like it was, okay? And you were asked us if the Billy could save his job, and you stated it pretty clearly, but you were not disrespectful, but you kept saying, this is the way it is, this is how it is, this is what's going to happen, and no, we can't let everything pass under. So what was that experience like?
No, it was awesome. The previous couple times that they'd asked me to be on the show, I was unable to do it back in SEC Media Days. I wasn't up there, so it felt overdue. I was grateful to be on there, and he asked some tough questions. I'll be quite honest. Most of the questions regarding Florida are DJ Lagway, Billy Napier's future, Scott Strickland, and you got to tell it like it is. It's hard to speculate on another coach, but so many people are doing it, fair or not, and you still have to show respect to the current coach because they're still coaching for their job, showing up every single day, working long hours. This team has not given up on Billy Napier, and you saw that on Saturday, a day later, that it's about this current team, not the future, even though everyone's already not everyone, but a ton of people are out on Billy Napier. They still have chances, This is still a bunch of guys in their last year of college ball who are trying to give it their all, not shut it down, play through injury, and you got to show respect there to that. And Florida clearly proved on Saturday they're a much more capable team than I think a lot of people have given them credit for.
Well, there's a fait accompli. I think Billy's gone. We'll see about that. And maybe he is, maybe he is. I don't know the answer. Shane and I have been talking about it for quite some time. I finally said, let's not try to hire the coach right now. Let's just get through the season. Off now, the 7.5-point underdogs going out to Texas A&M. And it's going to be probably a tough game, especially coming off this one. Your thought about where the Gators are right now, where they stand, and can they build on what they did Saturday and take it out to A&M and make some noise and maybe win the game 7.5-point underdog?
Yeah, they can't get complacent. And I don't think this team whatsoever, especially given what happened last year, sitting at 1-2, struggling early on, and then showing improvement down the stretch. This team has got the viewpoint that it's a long season. 4 games in, 33% of the season, people are sitting here trying to say that they know how a team is going to finish, and that's just not simply the case. Some teams start really well and then fade down the stretch, and some teams struggle early on and then have a really good season. So I think for Florida, they understand that they can still make improvements. DJ Lagway's situation, where, to quote Billy Napier, you could write a book on everything he's been through the past 9 months, from the right hip sports hernia to the shoulder injury, which still, who knows what's going to happen with that in the future, the calf strain, then his toe injury before the Miami game. I mean, the guy has been through the gauntlet. And then on Saturday, he battled through what looked like a hamstring injury, came up limping, had a visible limp during the game. This is a team that is not throwing in the towel, even though everyone is sitting out there saying, shut it down, the season's over, talking about opt-outs and whatnot. This is a team that has continued to fight. And if you're a Florida fan, kind of what you were just saying about rooting for the coach to lose, rooting for Florida to lose so the coach would lose their job. I mean, that's not all kinds of weather. That's not, being a Florida fan through thick and thin. That is just, it kind of bothers me a little bit, but it's the day and age we're in where people are reactionary on social media, especially on the message boards on the internet. And I understand where they're coming from for sure, because they want to have a team that is competing every single year for the college football playoff. And, I don't blame them for that whatsoever. But to root for the team to lose for guys who are in their final season, who turned down going to the NFL, like Austin Barber and Jake Slaughter, and guys who came back and then got injured when they could have gone out there and made millions of dollars, like Caleb Banks. I don't really like that too much. It's short-sighted. It misses the viewpoint of being a fan. Your job as a fan, not to tell anyone what to do, is to sit there and root for the team through thick and thin. And if you're not doing that, maybe just shut up and watch a little bit.
Shane's got to go do something now. He's got to go talk to somebody else, and I'm sure they're going to ask him a million questions. The same things you were asked. What about Billy? Was he, what have you? I'm sure Shane has been asked a bunch of questions. He must have been getting a lot of calls. His Mississippi friends want to know what that was all about. Shane, what will you think? What will you expect to be asked, and what will be your answers?
Look, regardless of how the season goes, I've never been one where like firing a coach in the middle of the season. I don't know what good that really does, right? Because you're not going to hire a new coach if that happens until the end of the season or into the playoffs or into bowl season or whatever. So I don't think it's really that big a deal right now. Look, I'm happy the kids and for the coach, because I know how hard it is to coach. I know, people bitch about play calling, people bitch about this or that, but they won a game against the number 9 team in America and dominated it. I said on my show, buddy, I thought I love the pageantry of pregame. It doesn't matter if we're at LSU. I'll be watching it intensely at A&M. I just love all the pregame stuff, regardless of where we're at. When the damn Texas Longhorns with their cheerleaders running out with that big flag with Bevo on it, I was like, this is cool. The damn Texas Longhorns are playing us here in the swamp. We've never seen it before. And next year we can see Oklahoma, I think, run out of the tunnel. Or either we go there. I can't remember. But look, whatever happens, but there's still a long season. I'm one of those guys, obviously, it's my school. I play for us. I want us to win. And if things don't happen the way we want, we'll have a new coach next year. But we'll just have to wait and see.
Well, no, you got to go. But, the cool thing was that they had a little something for Texas when they got there.
Yeah,
and
we played well. The crowd was outstanding.
Unbelievable. I think the swamp was the reason.
I just thought it was a great college atmosphere.
Yeah, I'm going to break this down with Graham some. I want to break down what's the science of the swamp and what is the congregational will of the people there. It's really an amazing phenomenon. I thought about it this morning at 4:00, as I told you. I took out my phone and started writing stuff down, thinking, okay, this is what happened. And you know what? They didn't see it coming. Sarkisian thought he knew the swamp. Guess what? They didn't know the swamp. And the swamp kicked their ass. That's what happened. So, all right, Shane, let you go, buddy. I'll see you in the morning on the program with you, Shane Matthews. Pot up with Matthews.
Y'all have a good night.
We will.
See you, Shane.
See you, bud.
Thank you. Graham's going to school me up on some things, teach me some stuff I need to know. And we'll be joined by friends in a minute. I want you to take me with you on your venture here in the last couple of days what's going on, what your emotional range has been, because you're a very deliberate and conscious journalist, and you try to tell what you know and not be emotional. But here's the thing about it, and I'll bring in Franz. The cool thing about this whole thing with Florida, I've seen this movie. I read this book. I wrote this book. And I can tell you right now that it's not just what you think you know. It's not just the analytics of what's supposed to happen. Sometimes it's a feeling. You take Tebow before the game, he was going to pick the other team. Our buddy, oh, come on, help me out here. I'm drawing a blank of his name. Both of them on the SEC Nation said they were going to pick Texas, and they changed their mind after what they felt and saw at the Swamp. There's something that goes on there, and I'm going to get into it a little bit more sociologically in the middle about what goes on here, what exactly what I've seen all these years. There's a phenomenon there. It's almost like where there's a convergence of what I call congregational will, where the fans want it so bad, they wish it to happen. And there's some scientific inevitabilities with the Swamp. It's in a hole. You make a noise. It's different. It's hot. There's just things you can't. It's hard to. I don't know, friends. How do you explain it to your friends? They say, "What is the Swamp?"
I say typically the home field is a 7-point advantage, and you double it at the Swamp. I think it's worth 14 points. I don't know what Graham's may have a different feeling than I have, but I have felt that since Spurrier came, I thought Florida always had a good home field advantage, starting with Charlie Pell. But when Spurrier came, I thought the advantage just really almost doubled. And I don't think even with the bad choices they've had to be head coaches, because Billy is number 6, I think. Let's see, Zook, Urban. Yeah, Billy's the 6th coach since Spurrier. And I think even with bad choices as the next head coach, other than Urban, I don't think that the home field has changed that much, because I think the passion's that great. But I think it really is about a 14-point advantage.
Yeah,
and if
okay.
you don't think if you don't think the other team is at least 2.5 touchdowns better than Florida, then I think the Gators have the advantage.
All right, I want to get with Graham here and talk about when he arrived on campus, what he saw. You were here. When you were here, was it Mullen when you first came to school here?
I was in school when Muschamp was here.
Muschamp. Okay, so talk about your experiences. And you're a guy who's very heady. You're smart. You do great work. You research things. You don't get emotional, but you have a deep feeling for this whole situation because you've been through it. This is your school too, and I know we went through a time there with Muschamp, who, by the way, on paper should have been the guy. If you look at all the parameters, look at his job, look what he had for his background, where he was at that point, the most desirable head coach in waiting in the country at Texas. I was going to be at Mac Brown's, have his job. And he came here, you think, and he has a Gainesville background. You think, hey, this might be the deal, right? The defensive guy. What happened there, Graham? You were here.
Yeah, I think it's tough to be the guy who follows the guy. I mean, to follow Urban Meyer was filled with unrealistic expectations, and I think he nailed the recruiting trail, and it was culminated with Alabama's, ascension to the pecking order of the SEC and college football. And, the results for any other team would have been satisfactory. And I think Will Muschamp felt the pressure. He understood that it was going to take a lot, and he's a fantastic coordinator, but to be a head coach at a program in the SEC, especially at a place like the University of Florida, takes a different level of, just devotion and ability. There are so few out there who can satisfy the needs that people are looking for and the expectations that, you beat a team just by 10 if you're favored by 14, you're going to hear about it the next day, and it's going to be seen as if you underachieved. And so I do think that he did a fantastic job recruiting, and judging him off of falling short of these sky-high expectations is a little bit unfair, because he's such a great person. He's affable. He's good with the media, and he's well-liked by players, especially defensive players. And the guys he landed, a lot of them went on to have long careers in the NFL. And then after him, with Jim McElwain coming in, you really kind of saw Florida, the administration, start to kind of take gambles, to be a little bit addicted to finding the next Urban Meyer, a coach that was young, had success elsewhere, maybe came from the Alabama coaching tree, and you would hope that would translate. And that has been so difficult to find. You know, guys like,
I agree with that.
Kirby Smart are few and far between.
Mm-hmm.
And he faced unrealistic expectations, and he came out, and also in the media, when they had really two good, impressive seasons, everything kind of fell apart so quickly for Jim McElwain. It was almost jarring in a sense. It really leads me to examine how we got here today, because he said some things in the media that found Florida's athletic department a little bit off guard. They were caught off guard. The death threats, the press conference with Will Grier after, Florida started 6-0 and then come back from that win over Missouri, and Will Grier is being asked to apologize. And then you have the death threats comments that blindsided Florida's athletic department. And then they didn't have the year on that Florida has had with Billy Napier to really, if they're going to make a hire, to identify the next guy, to have a year and months to make that hire and be correct and be tactical and evaluate a handful of candidates. That fell apart so quickly. And then, Jim McElwain in that final year lost a game due to a hurricane. I think they were playing Northern Colorado or something like that. And that game was lost due to a hurricane. So a game that should have been a win for them, removed from the schedule. And they had to make a hire before early, this was before early signing day still, when you still could salvage a class and build a class through December. Scott Strickland knew Dan Mullen, identified him, thought that he was a reliable, if not a safe hire, given his success at Mississippi State, felt like he could have even more success with more resources. He hires Dan Mullen, and then recruiting just massively changes, right? You have the transfer portal, you have the early signing day importance, which was, go back to 2018, 2017, guys were still committing in that first, Wednesday in February. It wasn't a second or third week of December where you had to have your class locked in, where the results of your previous season were so impactful, and you had to be recruiting consistently through October, November, December while you're coaching a team. So the recruiting falls off. The transfer portal comes into play here. COVID impacts everything from a political standpoint and from a recruiting and evaluating standpoint. It was harder to evaluate players from the recruiting services out there and for programs, because they weren't going to be able to watch a lot of the senior seasons. And you see everything kind of fall apart, where recruiting falls by the wayside. And it looks like this is a coach who also had an idea that they were going to move to the NFL at some point. That falls by the wayside, and complacency sets in, and that no longer becomes the move. So you then have 6 years of a stop and a restart. And now you're at a place where there's more changes than ever before in college football. Transfer portal, transfer windows changing, NIL, revenue sharing. And a coach is still expected, with all these changes, to be a competitive coach year in and year out. And that is becoming harder and harder in my mind. There's more parity than ever before in athletics, and coaches, you could make an argument for, have never been able to have less power on the recruiting trail than they have now. You can build the relationships, you can build the bonds, you can identify early, you can scout, evaluate, use all your resources. But if you don't have that treasure chest to have the winning offer, you are not going to often land that player.
Yep.
And so it has never become more difficult. And I think with all that said, coaches should have a quote unquote longer leash for establishing the foundation, for getting everything in play, where they're going to need often the results before people buy in with all of the resources that you need to compete. So we've seen so much change. I know it's a long answer in the last 12 years, but
well, it's a long time. It's a long time to
it's a long
capsule.
time, and so much has changed.
Yeah.
We've seen a lifetime of changes since
Yeah.
in college football in the past 12 years, and it leads you to the situation right now where Florida, despite the expectations, if they don't have a top 5 NIL and the on-field results, which has been really tough with the schedule the past couple of years and all the circumstances Florida's dealt with, if they don't have those results, they're going to often be stuck in mediocrity or falling short of those expectations, which leads us here where Billy Napier in a different era or with different NIL resources or more investment, you could make the case that the coaching would be adequate enough to have the results Florida fans were looking for. And that unfortunately has just not been the case, which leads to this impasse in a sense where it's falling short of the lofty, deserved expectations that fans have.
There's a lot of truth in all that, not the least of which going after the hot guys sometimes burn them. They got into a seesaw there where they just couldn't do anything right. And what I was getting at too, and I want you to comment, and then Franz, such an emotional swing right now. It seems like this program is, Franz, as long as we remember, there have been emotional swings. And this is a team, and since we've known it, it's just about the time you want to count them out. That's when they bite you in the butt. And I think this is that word. And I'm kind of get some of that out of Graham, who's been there a while now. He's a veteran. I know you and I've seen a lot of it, and we was thinking, what do? You throw up your hands. At some point, you can't defend the guy, and yet you feel like he might be a decent coach, but he can't get a break to go the right way. But that's on him. And when you try to explain it, people think you're making excuses for him. It's hard to balance it as a media person. So, Franz, the emotional swings, we've had a bunch of those.
Well, we have it, and I'll throw something in here for both you guys to ponder for a second. Last year, Florida got handed easily the toughest schedule in the Southeastern Conference. And the flip side of it is it comes back the same schedule this year. So they go to a 9-game schedule, and all of a sudden, all the people that got easier schedules than Florida the last 2 years, they get thrown a lifeline. Basically, they don't, you don't have to see for, somebody else having to play the Florida type schedule next year. So that in itself, you look at things. I'm not a conspiracy theory guy, Graham or Buddy, but it's kind of like, somebody was telling me today that how long has it been since Florida had 3 SEC players of the week? This week they had Taylor Spirito because of the block punt. They had Dallas Wilson, who you couldn't get past him for the first.
I want to talk about that a little bit too.
And then our quarterback goes lights out. And I got asked today while I was driving home, a text message said, when is the last time Florida had 3 SEC players of the week? And he then said, and I didn't follow up by asking him, he said, I can name at least 6 or 7 schools that have had multiple times 2 and 3 players of the week, and we haven't.
Yeah.
And he's got a legitimate point there. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but when Jake Slaughter can make first team All-American and can't even make the coaches All-SEC team last year, when Walter Clayton Jr., when there are coaches that don't include him on the All-SEC team for basketball, and it just seems that Florida is in a cycle of Murphy's Law. If it can't go wrong, it seems.
Here's the thing, though, Graham. Here's the thing, though. It's big. It's huge. There's all these teams. It's hard to keep up, to know who the right guard is on anybody. You got multiple guys to follow, programs, coaches, players. You would know who's playing now. I mean, maybe you're young and smart, Graham, but it's hard to keep up with these rosters, who's on them right now, and you're trying to it's so massive. But I want to make sure we don't let this time go by without addressing two things. Well, maybe three, but certainly the play of Dallas Wilson, which to me was the most remarkable. I wasn't there the day Emmett made 244 yards on his first game, but I can tell you that I've seen it was the most impressive freshman start I've ever seen. And the plays he made were incredible, number one. Secondly, the word is the balls that the QB had. You know, I mean, look, he wasn't coming out of that game. DJ was not going to come out of that game, and he was hurt. He wasn't coming out of there. He stayed in there and played with, played what he had. And he was better on one leg than he ever been on two, probably. You get that going on. There's a lot of people. The defense was just remarkable. The hurries, they had, 35 or some ridiculous number. And it was really just an amazing day for the Swamp. But I want to get to something else first and then touch on that when I come back. The Swamp itself, we think we know all about it. We think we understand it and why it is. But if you sit down tonight and try to express it and write it and say, what is the reason this happens? Because in the end, the Swamp owned the game, And let me just read you a short thing, and then you guys can tear it apart, or you can agree, disagree, or give me your version. I tried to express it. I said, where scientific reality meets with spiritual inevitability, forging a congregation of steel will, which manifests itself in unbelievable heroic antics that seem far beyond reach. A contractual bond which creates a relentless effort. At some point, and forgive me, Lord, for saying it this way, there will be a come to Jesus moment, which could feel like the combustibility of the Gators, leading to a friends all day singing and dinner on the ground for the Gators. It's a spiritual, it's a religious thing almost. And these forces consort and conspire on behalf of the inhabitants, much like the Aggies' 12th man, but it's an acoustically superior place because it's in a hole at sea level and reverberates into the sky, and there are no canyons or mountains to knock it down. And so what is it? It's really kind of a scientific fact, and it's also contractual will, and it's something that the people are learning about. And quite frankly, I think Texas had no idea what it was like to play in the Swamp, and now they know. Guys, tear it apart.
Yeah. Go France.
There is something about it. Again, as I've said, I was there in 79, 10-1, and we sold out every game. And it was, it was loud as it could possibly be. People went crazy, and we had a bad team. We sold out Alabama. They come in here ranked number 1 in the country. We got 3 first downs, and people went nuts when Florida got a first down that game. Gordon Pleasance makes a 3-yard run on Charlie goes for it on 4th and 2, and Gordon Pleasance made a 3-yard run, and the place went berserk. No other place would that happen for a team like that that's hapless. There is something about this place, and it is different. It is down in a hole, and thus the noise has no place to go. The humidity has no place to go. Graham, I'm sure you remember sitting down there before you were ever a writer, down below the street level, and when it gets 90 degrees on street level, it's got to be 105 down there. There's no place as hot. There's no place as miserable, except if you're a Gator. We seem to think that's normal, and we endure it. There is something about it, and there is something very intimidating about it. We have the worst fans in the world when it comes to pregame because they don't arrive until 2 minutes before the game.
Georgia's worse, yeah.
And things like that. And yet, 2 minutes into this game Saturday, and the place is full, and the place is deafening. My ears didn't stop ringing until Monday, until yesterday, this morning. I guess it is. Today's Monday.
I don't know. I can't hear. I don't know.
I've kind of lost it, but you know, it's a place I think that our guys get so elevated by the noise that happens
By the
for
passion,
them, and against the other team.
All right, Graham, have at it.
Yeah, Florida fans want to believe. I mean, I think a lot of people had seen the narratives about coming in this game. There was a lot of people who were thinking they were going to boo Billy Napier and boo this team. But through the adversity, Florida fans show up. They understand the impact that they can have on the opposing team. And they're willing, even when they're frustrated, to help Florida have their best chance at being successful, which is part of the frustration, if you think about it, in my mind, because they're showing up every single week. They're selling out the Swamp. 15 straight sellouts on Saturday. They're not to blame if the results aren't what they expect. They're doing their part even when they're 1-3. And Franz, what you just said is so important, because 1979, I see all this talk and about the controversy of lowering the capacity of the Swamp, but it was still loud and a raucous atmosphere and deafening when it was 78,000 people. It's the way the Swamp is built. It is a special place.
Right.
The architecture of it keeps the sound in. There's nowhere for it to go. So they understand the responsibility of showing up for the game and impacting their team and what it can lead to. It can be directly correlated with having the results they want, especially against a top 10 team like Texas. And that's what makes this place so special, is that the fans are kind of like not to use a Texas A&M quote here, but they're kind of like the 12th man in a sense.
No doubt about it. Yes, that's exactly what it is.
It's 100% what it is. And when they show up and they're a part of the game and they're invested and doing their part and making noise and bothering the other team's offense, they're directly correlated to Florida having a chance to win. And what I just said about being so much parity in college football and teams having so much identical talent with the portal and NIL, that can be the difference maker. Showing up and being loud and being invested and cheering the team on and booing the other team, those things still matter. That is one of the few constants in college football. In this era of change with the portal and NIL and rev share, the fan impact has not gone away, and I don't foresee it going away. Even if they take out 8,000 seats with the renovation and try and improve the experience, the architecture of the Swamp and the fan support is still going to be in Florida's favor. And that is one of the things that is commendable. And it's one of the reasons why we sit here every single night and talk about Florida and get up early in the morning and write about Florida, is because the fans are the reason we have a chance. You, me, Franz, all of us have a chance to do this because of the fan support for the program. And seeing that through the thick and thin is one of the unifying factors of every Florida fan, regardless of race, religion, ideology, whatever. You're unified with someone 2 seats next to you, all cheering on Florida and booing the opposition. And when you show up and make the drive and buy tickets and buy concessions, that you're doing that because you know that you can impact the team positively. And it's the reason why Billy Napier and players come out every single game and credit the fans often before they say anything else, because they know the impact that it has. And they understand that they have not achieved the results that fans are looking for and that fans deserve. But they understand that to achieve those results, they could not do it without the fans and their support. So that is what makes the Swamp special. It's part of what makes every single home game an event, an unforgettable memory for so many people. And let me say this before I end this point. We often get consumed with the narratives of the coach and the players and all that. You got to think that there are so many fans who come to games who don't know all that stuff.
Yes.
They show up going back to the school that they went to 40 years ago, bringing their grandkids there, bringing their sons and daughters back there, showing them where they went to school and giving them a firsthand experience to see what made that place so special, why they
it's ancestral. Yeah.
They don't forget that, and that hasn't gone away. And it's part of why so many people are still invested. We're still invested for a team that was 1-3 because they know that Florida football team is not going to do it without them, without their support. And it's what makes it's one of the best parts of Saturday. You know, the game was special in itself, but seeing the fans show up and create that atmosphere was just as special when they had every reason to be checked out, to be upset, to boo if they wanted, to not be as loud as they could be, to not be wanting to lose their voice come Sunday morning. They were still invested.
Well said. And we got about a minute and a half to go, and I would like you both to speak to in 35 or 40 seconds the current status, the coaching status, what happens next, and can they build on this? Franz, you got 30 seconds.
I think they can. I think Billy is still on thin ice, but if he can get the team to play consistently as well as they played Saturday, then they've got a chance to win some ball games. And if they're winning ball games, he's got a chance to still be the coach here next year.
I think we had him as dead men walking too, but doesn't seem like it. Like someone said on Thursday, or asked, what can he do to save his job? I said, win every game. That's what he has to do. I don't see a pathway, but you know what? He didn't have to see that pathway right now, Graham. He's got to go out there and try to beat Texas A&M and see what happens.
Yeah, go 1-0 each week. If you can do that, then we're sitting here. It's not about winning 8 straight games. It's about going 1-0 the rest of the way. If they can do that, you have a chance to save yourself. And I know that there's this notion that once you lose the fan support, you're not going to get it back. I understand where that's coming from, but if Florida somehow goes on a run here, wins the games ahead of them, proves that they are closer to being a contender than a pretender, then Florida is going to have a difficult decision to make with Billy Napier. You know, he's a guy who is not going to quit on this team. He does not want to get fired just as much as Florida's athletic department doesn't want to fire a guy in the middle of the season. He doesn't want to quit on his team, just like those guys didn't quit on him last year, and they haven't quit on him so far. 1-0 each week, that's all that Florida can focus on.
And that's the most impressive thing, and he still has his team. He's not lost his team, as we saw. If there's any one message on Saturday, it's clear he has not lost his team, and he's got some terrific talents, including number 6. Guys, great stuff tonight. Graham, it's good to see you again, man. I'm going to get you on here more often. Franz,
let's make it happen.
Let's do it. And Franz, look forward to your basketball book coming out soon, the Golden Season, which we'll talk about later, and read Franz, and both Franz and Graham, 2 of the best around. Appreciate you guys.
Graham, I gotta
do it in 10 seconds.
Before we go. Graham and guys like him are the future, and guys who are truly invested in their craft and being good at
exactly my thoughts as I watched him on Feinbaum. I thought, honestly, the future's arrived. It's Graham. So it was great. Congratulations. All right, buddy.
I wouldn't be here without you, buddy. You know that, man.
No.
You know that, man.
No, great stuff. I'm a big fan, Thank you, Franz. You are well, buddy. Appreciate you very much, both. Have a good one. See you soon. All right, folks, that wraps up the program for tonight. We're going to tell you about our sponsor, Titan MRI and Imaging, with 3 locations to serve you, 2 in Gainesville with Park Avenue and now the Millennium Center, 1 in Lake City, serving not just all of Columbia County, but also Valdosta, Georgia. Titan MRI and Imaging offers the same great customer service as always. You can actually change the time of your appointments. If you can't make the afternoons, they'll take you at night. Customize your appointment. They accept insurance, or you can go through their convenient self-pay options. They offer MRIs, CAT scans, X-rays, ultrasounds. They have the larger MRI machines. I love this for your patient comfort. No ERs, no hospitals. Coming soon to Ocala to help serve you there. Better serve Marion County and the folks here. Titan MRI, it's your choice. Thanks to our guest tonight, as usual, Shane, Franz, Graham. It was a great Saturday. Fun to have. We're going to look forward to see what happens next week out there where the 12th man lives. So have a good night, folks, and we will catch up to you. Well, tomorrow morning we'll be on Shane's, and we'll join you there. Shane Show, Potter Matthews, if you haven't been hearing that, I'm sure you have, because who doesn't listen to Shane Matthews? Everybody listens to him. So until then, folks, Have a great night.